What's up? This is Kyle Leduc, and this is The Skinny.
From the Fatheads Eyewear Studios in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny, brought to you by Toyota, Rhino Classifieds, General Tire, and Dream Giveaway. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Toyota. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a holiday edition of The Skinny. I have a very good friend that will join me on the show here today, typically from Southern California, has moved to Alabama over the course of the last couple of years. His name's Kyle Leduc. I've had the pleasure of watching him start his career since he was about 21, 22, I think, somewhere in that general area, and I have also had the pleasure of calling a number of his championships all along the way. If I'm not mistaken, I think he currently holds 8 of those in short course off-road racing at the highest levels. Welcome, my friend, to the show. We've been trying to make this happen for a little bit. You bounce in and out of Indianapolis now that you're with that Chip Ganassi racing team. We just weren't able to work it out during the season, and all of us are very, very busy, but thanks for taking the time here just before New Year's.
Yeah, I appreciate that, dude. Just hearing those stats and the stuff that you talked about obviously doesn't seem real, but we got trophies behind us, so they are real. But it's been an epic journey. So I appreciate you and everything you've done over the years. And yeah, it'd be cool to step in there someday, sit in the office and chat. But hey, this is the same. It's all good.
Yeah, man, you're always welcome for sure. And we're just down the way here from the Speedway. Probably. I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes at the most away from Chip's shop as well. So we'll get you in here for sure. All the stuff that obviously I'm so used to seeing the trophies, the short course trophies, they catch my eye. But the one that really catches my eye is the DeLorean, the time machine over the top of the fireplace. What's that all about?
I'm definitely a Back to the Future super fan. I've watched all the movies behind the computer here. I've got all the cars lined up. I've got all these nerdy little things, but no, it's just something I liked a long time ago. The car, I actually owned a DeLorean for a minute. Cool driving it around, cool little hot rod. But no, it's just something I've been into, watching Back to the Future, and yeah, it's kind of cool. But it's definitely, you got to have your little nicks and crannies and what you're into, what you're watching, what you tune into. But I've just always been a fan of it. So yeah, put it in the office.
So all of your fans, of course, are very familiar with your accomplishments over the years. And while we certainly want to touch on those and not discard them in any way, shape, or form, we really like to get a little bit of information about the guys that people don't typically know about. And just you, even this morning, as we were chatting on the air here, trying to get things going, we're running a little bit late. I apologize for that. But you said, hey, man, I'm working out. I'm tired of being the chubby guy, which I don't know that you're the chubby guy, but I certainly get it. And when you're around the people that you've been around this year, and I really reference more of the Extreme E season whenever I say this, you take a look at those athletes that you're competing against and some of those Formula One drivers and competitors and take a look at the athleticism that they're capable of. I'm sure and you being the competitive guy, it's like, hey, man, I'm not going to be in last place here. I got to jump in the game. So talk to me about what you're doing here to get physically fit.
Well, I mean, we've always been, the American tough guys, right? Like we're we're bigger than 3/4 of the field. Me and my crew chief Trad and some of our team guys, but there's a lot of European guys and different drivers and stuff. But just for myself, I mean, I ride dirt bikes a lot. I grew up racing mountain bikes and was always in pretty good shape. But you just get caught up in working around the shop and being lazy, traveling, eating bad, and just got to square myself up and kind of start over. So built a little gym up here in my office and just need to start knocking it out. We've all said we're going to do it, and I've said I was going to do it 2 or 3 times in the past, but definitely time to lean out, clean up, tighten up, and just be able to not have to be out of breath or doing certain stuff or be more flexible. I think that's my biggest thing is obviously you want to be big and strong, but you also got to be flexible. So got to work on some of that stuff for myself. And if it pays off during racing, that's fine. But definitely, want to want to look good with the shirt off for the wife and my son's super ripped and my daughter, they're both athletic, doing sports and stuff. And I don't want to be the chubby guy. So time to get to work.
I feel your pain, man, in many ways. Actually, the pandemic was a blessing for me. Believe it or not, I lost about 54 pounds. I have since found it all again. I lost it, but it was right there. I found it and put it all back on. I started working out at this place up here. Maybe you're familiar with it, called Pit Fit. Dixon goes there. A number of the other IndyCar drivers go there, and started working out. But I've been actively what's the best way to describe this? I've been actively proving the fact that you cannot work your way out of a bad diet. So I've not fixed my diet, but I've been working out since August, and you would never know it to look at me. I'm a lot stronger, but I have not lost a pound. So yeah, I think the diet and what you're talking about is a huge part of it, and the flexibility. I mean, man, I just pulled a hamstring. I've never done anything like that before, but working out up there the other day, pulled a hamstring, and man, oh man, what a special moment that was. But as I started working out, I got tighter and tighter and tighter, and I refused to stretch, even though I felt it. I knew I should have been, but as you get older, it just gets worse and worse. So I remember seeing Carl climb in and out of his truck, and Carl's constantly stretching, the old nemesis for you, and of course, very athletic as well. But I agree with you 100%. And I think if you get in a bad situation in one of those trucks and you need to do something quickly, the stretching can certainly pay dividends.
Yeah, I remember I was watching Carl walk up to his truck and put his leg up onto the window and then duck his
Exactly
head,
what I
almost
was
touch his
thinking
coat
about.
and climb in. And I was looked at him, I'm like, dude, you're crazy. Either you're doing it wrong or I'm doing it wrong. Uh, but I mean, even when I was younger, like you used to call me Kyle the Kid, and we used to jump in and out of race cars all day long, and then we'd go home and jump on our mountain bikes and go ride, and then jump on dirt bikes and go ride. So just part of being active. And since we moved here to my house here in Alabama, this office was not here behind me, and this is upstairs at my shop. I have maybe a 2,700 square foot shop. Nothing huge, but this is like an upstairs loft that's on it. So I mean, just been working, just been trying to outfit this place so that I can actually have a home base. I've always rented shops in the past or worked with my dad, and this is finally my shop. So we got air conditioning in it. We've foam insulated the roof, like everything here in Alabama that the essentials that you need to get started. And yeah, just doing everything, trying to build a shop that I can build race cars in and spend some time in.
Yeah, speaking of that, you guys are down there in Tornado Alley as well, man, and you've been able to dodge all that crazy weather.
Yeah, we're in hurricanes. Yeah, hurricanes are the nemesis. So we're right on the coast. I mean, the water here in the Gulf is maybe 2.5 2 miles down the road. So
Oh wow,
it's
okay.
definitely right here. We had a storm hit, not 2021, but in 2020 we had a Hurricane Sally came through and pretty much hit us direct, maybe 2 or 3 miles, east of us, but 120-mile-an-hour winds. Me and my crew chief Trad were here. It was the weekend before heading up to Crandon, so knocked down all of our trees. We have big pecan trees, so those knocked over, blocked the entire driveway. So it's been an eye-opening thing. But my wife has always hated earthquakes. I love them. Like just what's happening during an earthquake, I've always loved. It's just insane, right? But she likes the hurricanes because you can see them coming, you can prepare, you can get out. Um, but I don't know. They come through enough. Where we are, we have huge trees, so we've got 30 plus acres, tons of trees everywhere. So when it comes through and destroys things, it leaves a mark for sure.
Yeah, so I didn't realize you were that far south there, and Alabama. I guess certainly the joke applies here that you left Southern California and moved to L.A., Lower Alabama. I was thinking
Yeah.
you were up in Northern Alabama, to be quite honest with you, but didn't realize you were so close to the coast. So, what prompted that move? Why Alabama from Southern California?
A couple things. I mean, obviously, my wife's family lives here, so her dad is here, and her grandpa's here. So we've been here vacationing and hanging out and stuff before. But just my dad was up in Beaumont, and that town has exploded times 1,000 in Southern California. Then we moved to Temecula, which is like right in the middle of the gnarliest rat race. So had a really nice house rented up in the hills, and then had another shop rented in downtown, and just that 9.5 mile, 45 minute to an hour commute just killed me. I couldn't do it. and then you got to leave every day. And I know a lot of people have to leave and go to work, but if you got the choice to do it and not have to leave, I'm all for it because that's the way I grew up with my dad's. Never left home. It was always in the backyard. So um, she hates snow. I don't like snow. I don't like Arizona 125-degree weather. So it eliminated like three-quarters of the whole continent. So we just started shopping around over here, and man, we spent a whole month here looking around, learning what cities to live in, where not to go, what to do, and houses. And man, we found this killer property down here on like the second to last day we were here, and literally checked it out for maybe an hour with the owners, and then flew home and bought it. I mean, went through all the chaos and stress to move. All that kind of stuff is pretty chaotic, but all in all, we definitely an awesome piece of property. Great city. The city of Fairhope, Alabama is super nice, super clean, just good people. And I can't see a road from my house. I mean, I don't live in what they call the sticks, but we're just off the main highway, the 2-lane highway, and we're out by ourselves. I mean, it's really nice to walk out front and be able to do whatever you want in your property, whether it be fires, guns, dirt bikes, testing the Pro 4 on the property, like all these cool things that we've done. It's pretty surreal, but yeah, definitely worth it. A lot of chaos and struggle to get here, but we made it happen, and I'm definitely pumped on it.
Yeah, it's been super cool to watch you to get over there. Of course, you're very good with social media and keeping all your fans up to date. And I remember thinking, holy smokes, man, he's not only has he got to move, but he's got to move that entire race operation. He's trying to win championship in the middle of it. He has sponsors he has to take care of. But as always, the thought process was extremely good. I've always thought you've been well ahead of your time, although you're certainly a seasoned adult at this point. But but to watch you make those steps, leave the racing operation pretty much alone, take care of the family first, get the house up and going, build the shop, and then slowly morph that thing over to where you're at, and then watch you develop a practice track, watch you start taking care of Reed and build his race cars and get him a place to practice as well. It's been quite a process, and I feel like it just happened a year ago, but I guess it has been. Is it 3 years now? 2, 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it goes by so quickly, but it takes a little while to get it all in place, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it was chaotic because I had my shop in Temecula, and I had parted ways with Trad, my crew chief, and he went up north, Northern California, because he wasn't wanting to move to Alabama. So I was trying to figure out this whole crew chief thing because I only had 3 or 4 months before the season started. So I gave him a call, and it's the one thing I've never done in my entire life. Hey, dude, you want to bring my race truck to your shop and prep it while I move to Alabama for the year? And he's like, you're going to give me your truck, like, and not be on top of it? I said, don't question it. Just answer the question, because I'm about to say the opposite. And he's like, yeah, dude, I'm all about it. So, I swallowed my pride a little bit and sent the truck up to him. And man, it's definitely been one of the best moves we've ever done. We came right out with a championship that same year. And, we've front clipped the truck. We've back half the truck up at his shop. I've flown up there and done a bunch of work, and we've made it work. I mean, we've got 20,000 photos to each other. I mean, he's probably the most person I text and message and contact on my phone daily, just because he knows what I've grown up knowing and wanting, hands-on, seeing the truck. If he says he's going to change this tab and do it, it's not or doubting him. It's just him reassuring me that what I see is going on the racetrack, what all is there, and it's definitely good. So I appreciate him doing that. I know it's a little bit to go out of your way to do that kind of stuff, but in the end, we both build a truck that goes out and wins races. So far, it's worked out great. I got a new little hot rod I'm building downstairs. So got some cool stuff going on. Hopefully for the future, we're racing strong, and he's planning on moving out here out of California too. So maybe not out here, but somewhere in the South.
So we'll take a quick break here. We're going to elaborate a little bit more on Kyle's involvement with his truck and how things got going. He's one of the best of all time in short course off-road racing, and he's spending a little bit of time with us just before New Year's. We'll blast off. Stay with us. We'll be right back on the other side.
This segment of The Skinny has been brought to you by General Tire. It's more than just a slogan. Anywhere is possible with General Tire. General Tire's Grabber X3 Mud Terrain tire offers aggressive styling and is engineered for durability with innovative performance features that are ready to carry you through extreme mud, dirt, and rock-covered terrain. For extreme traction that's ready for anything and rugged styling to match, look no further than the Grabber X3. Make your anywhere possible by visiting GeneralTire.com today.
This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Rhino Classifieds. Tired of all those ads and random stuff that shows up when you're looking to buy or sell your car parts? Rhino Classifieds was created just for you. Welcome to a streamlined buying and selling app created by racers for racers and race fans. Modified cars, classic cars, race cars, that special big block you need, the trailer to move your baby around the country in. We got you at rhino.co. Welcome back to The Skinny. We have Kyle Leduc here on the show with us. In excess of 100 career wins in short course off-road racing. Nothing to sneeze at by any stretch of the imagination, and has competed against the absolute best of all time. Was picked up by Chip Ganassi Racing here in 2021, part of the Extreme E season. Certainly one of the elites when it comes to motorsports. Spending a little bit of time with us here just before New Year's. Thanks a lot for taking the time here, Kyle. And as we were talking about your involvement with the truck and you turning things over to Chad, and Chad being blown away that you would even think about the idea, much less actually pull the trigger on it. But let's go back to how things started, because when I first got into this industry, I used to walk by your dad's pit on a regular basis and check in with him, and he was always up inside of the trailer. He was always rebuilding the diff on that truck and getting it ready for the next round, just typical maintenance stuff. And watching your dad so hands-on, and the story that I heard, and I'd love for you to confirm it and elaborate on it, either true or not true, but the way that I heard it was you wanted to go racing, and Dad pretty much said, well, there's the grinder and over there, and there's a torch, and there's a welder, and there's a lot of tubing up there. Feel free to build one and get after it. I mean, very, very hands-on, very tough-love dad, but it has certainly paid dividends for you.
Yeah, it's somewhat of the right story. Obviously, my dad's an iconic guy, a storyteller to say the least. But it it all started. I mean, the first race I ever rode with my dad or with anybody was man. I looked like I was like maybe 12, little fire suit, and I rode shotgun in his little Ford Ranger pre-runner. I think me, my brother, and my sister all rode in that. And then the first time I actually got to put my name on the door and race a truck was at the 1997 Baja 1000. So it was a Ford Ranger that I worked a deal out in my dad's shop. It's a guy my dad had been working with forever. That if I prepped it, he would let me drive a section. So I prepped it for free. I didn't make any money doing it. And I was a sophomore in high school and got to race the section of the Baja 1000. Had issues with it, but I spent the night in the desert. The truck broke, so we're sleeping in the truck in the desert. But it was a start. It was where it all began, And then I raced it in '99, got into 2000. But at that same time, I was racing downhill mountain bikes professionally, and making money doing that, traveling the United States doing that, and running pro with that. So that was all I wanted. And I worked with my dad and built trucks, and had a lot of experience already. So in 2002, I think he had a sponsor, Skyjacker Suspension, that was looking to sponsor the truck in the Pro Light division. And my dad was like, well, hey, instead of, sponsoring somebody else, let's see if Kyle wants to do it. And I think literally before he finished the sentence, I was already in the shop. So it was a go from the word, would you like to? I was already in. So obviously I didn't know how to build trucks. I didn't know how to do geometry, steering, motor placement, weight bias, all that stuff. But I knew how to fabricate. I knew how to grind, cut, drill, and do all that kind of stuff. So I built the truck with the people in my shop, but it was kind of like the nobody touched the truck until Kyle walks in the door type scenario. So yeah, I mean, if if I had to get down there and work on the truck, we wouldn't have a race car. So had tons of help, and obviously my dad did a bunch, and we would make multiple runs down to his back scrap yards to find old front hubs or some old gauges off of his old truck and old ignitions and small fuel pumps and all the stuff that didn't cost money because he'd been racing for decades. So Skyjacker definitely came in and helped us along with some of his other sponsors, but it was cool to just literally drive out. I mean, it was so last minute. I remember borrowing a front wheel from Rick Huseman and a couple things just to get the truck out the shop and on the trailer. So first race, we drove it all the way from California to New York and got to race on a short course off-road track. I've been spotting my dad for years before that. And then this was the time to take a green flag at the start of, I think, 2003.
That man, I remember that racetrack in New York. And I don't know that it was the first year. I think it was actually maybe the second or third year. I don't know how many years we went to New York, but man, one of the most epic jumps of all time. Watching you go up in the air, and then I think whenever you landed, like the helmet came down over your eyes, and you were slouched in the. Yeah, it was pretty ugly, but you were going for it, man. I mean, you were absolutely going for it. And of course, talking about Rick, I think you and Rick, one of the I know. I think both of you were Fords at the time, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know that had anything to do with lining things up with the front hub, but but the point I really want to make to the fans at home is because it's so rare now to see somebody work their way into success and sponsorship, which you've been able to do. I mean, clearly. Your father with a ton of experience, you can lean on him, the people around the shop, the same resources there. Your abilities, though, have certainly excelled in terms of building a truck and your fabrication abilities. Everything that you've learned along the way, as you talked about before, all the weight bias and your ability to really dial in, shock packages, all of that stuff is the point that I'm trying to make. You've learned all of that stuff all along the way. You've managed to put yourself in a situation where you can win, and you didn't start off with a bunch of money, and you acquired those sponsorships and have since enjoyed the success because of it. You're one of a handful of people in short course off-road racing that actually make a living out of that sport and racing, and you rely on those sponsorships, and the only way they keep coming back is if you're successful. So I wanted to get a little bit of that information from you and how you started so people know, because, dude, it just doesn't happen anymore. The way it happens is somebody shows up with a lot of money, pots and pots of money, man, and buy their way in, and hopefully they can make something happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've just always been around it. I mean, there was no way to not be. I mean, it was in our backyard. We build jumps, we break our quads, we drive them into the shop, and Dad'd be like, "Oh, the tie rod's broke. What are we going to do?" It's like, "Well, can you help me?" And he would help me do it, but then he'd make us booger weld it together. I mean, we're talking 11, 12 years old. And whether that set the path or not, it definitely did. But, there's been knockdown, drag out fights, with brothers and fathers. I mean, it's a fabrication shop. It's family. Like, there's pros and there's cons. And even that first year of racing, like, we didn't have money. I didn't have a spare engine. So one of the tracks I went to, and I blew my motor in practice, and I watched the rest of the weekend. I didn't get to race, and it wasn't a, "Dad, I need this," or, "Come on, go buy that guy. He's got a motor right there." It's like, oh man, well, there it is. It was the reality of it, and I think obviously that definitely gave me a mindset on what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, how to do it, and seeing my dad do it for a living, racing trophy trucks. He went to Dakar, went up Pikes Peak. I mean, short course Pro 4, you name it, the guy's driven it and been successful at it. So seeing that from the outside in was definitely a good tool for me to jump on. But then at the same time, I wanted to have my own edge. I wanted to have my own design. I wanted to have my own style. And me and him butted heads for some days, and some days it was awesome. Same with my brother. Some days it was a nightmare, like fighting with your brothers and who's doing better, and I won this race and you didn't win this one. And there was times when it sucked, but there was times when it was cool. So and it helped us. I mean, me and my brother being competitive against each other pushed us on the mountain bikes. We were always bragging to each other about who was better and who did this better, and it transferred into the trucks. When he went truck racing in '05, I was already the 2004 Pro Light champion. So he's like, all right, great. My dad's this champion. Now Kyle's a champion. Now I got to go into this thing, and I better come out swinging too. The pressure's on. So it was just an atmosphere. I mean, I probably had hands on 20 some odd trucks that rolled out of my dad's shop throughout my life. And, I remember being in high school and running the lathe when he would put the bypass tubes on the outside of the old coilover shocks. I was there running a hone up and down. So I'd come home from school and I'd be working on that stuff. And the day after I graduated, he was gone and we had to pull the motor out of his Pikes Peak truck and we had to fabricate this gnarly thing. So it was like my grad night. Instead of going out partying and making mistakes, I was in the shop working on his trucks and building stuff. So there are stories that sound cool, but at the time it's just whatever you're wanting to do is what you're going to do. And it's the mental choice of whether you do one thing, do another. And I've always looked at it like I don't want to be mid pack. I don't want to have a race car. I want to have the race car and I want to be at the front. And it's taken me a long time to try to figure out how to get there. But once you do, and once I got there, it was so much more fun to just be openly creative and building cool pro lights and Stilo, my Pro 4, stuff like that roll out of the shop and you can just have pride in, and then put them on the racetrack and prove it. To go from honing shocks on my dad's lathe to being able to pull out of your shop a complete race truck is it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to say you've done it.
It's been really cool to watch you develop over the course of time, for sure. And as you talk about those stories, and I mean, you had to be 16 years old, 16, 17 years old whenever you're going into that Baja race and then stepping up and building your own trucks and then finally finding that success. So it's been great to watch you develop over the course of your career. And your father, of course, had the pleasure of working with him at Crandon here just a few months ago. It's been a long time since I really had a chance to spend time with your dad, and I've always enjoyed talking with your dad. He always has a unique aspect. He's a great interview. He's a great color commentator. I mean, he sees so much. He's been around and done so much. He's great to have in the booth, and it was a real pleasure to work with him again after such a long time away from each other there with his retirement, of course, from the sport and that sort of stuff. So we're going to take another quick break here. We'll be back on the other side with some more from Mr. Kyle Leduc. We'll talk about how his career progressed and what the future holds in store for this talented driver. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Dream Giveaway. Dream Giveaway has been giving away high-end American muscle cars to raise money for charity since 2007. Dream Giveaway is known for giving away classic and new muscle and paying the federal taxes so the winners don't have to. For $25, you can jump in the game, and part of that goes to charity. You'll have a chance at winning some of the coolest cars on the planet. Check it out at dreamgiveaway.com. Once again, we have Kyle Leduc with us on this special holiday edition of The Skinny just before New Year's Eve here, and it's a pleasure to have Kyle with us. He's joined us from his home in Alabama, and we've been talking about how he got his career started, how he scrapped from the bottom, literally working, fabricating his own truck, a lot from his father, and competing with his brother as well. My quick little claim to fame with Kyle Leduc is, he'd mentioned it before, I had a chance to dub him the kid back in the day, and that's exactly what he was, and he was so much fun to watch. But I do remember this special moment sitting on the starting line at Crandon, and I don't know why Kyle was in the back row with me. It was my first career race in a pro light race, but he's in the back row with me. I think maybe you were late for the driver's meeting or something silly had happened. I don't know what it was, but Kyle is this accomplished pro light racer and who went on to win the championship that year. And Kyle looks over at me and I look over at him and we're about to start the race and Kyle says, "Follow me." And I looked over at Kyle and I said, follow me. Of course, I never saw Kyle again. They dropped the green flag. He was gone. And I actually beat him, though, because you broke in that race. So I think I beat you. And I have a picture of myself ahead of Jeff Kincaid and Art Schmidt. And I beat you. And I'm like, hey, man, I just quit right now. I'm done. But I remember getting to the end of the race because I was still a pit reporter for the series, and I climbed out of the truck and I looked at somebody and I said, "You got to tell me who finished first, second, and third." I said, "I was nowhere close to them guys. I don't know. I don't know who won this thing." So it was a lot of fun though, and was able to enjoy a handful of races that year in the pro light division. And I got to say, man, the stuff that I learned to bring to the booth and relay to the fans was absolutely remarkable, because everything that you guys go through, a lot of it's just taken for granted. You don't even realize all the stuff that you do and just inherently react to. The biggest thing for me that I hope I was able to bring to the fans over the course of time was the serious lack of vision that goes on during the entire race, and you just can't see where you're going. And a number of times I've told people, when you see a guy do something you just think is completely stupid, trust me, there's a real good chance he just could not see anything at all. So while you're sitting on your couch watching with perfect vision, don't be too quick to judge that guy.
Yeah, we use the term blacked out, and that's happened 1,000 times. I mean, even just the Crandon start, you go through turn one, and the spotter is literally helping you. Hold your line, drift a little wider, a little tighter, because you're just murdering tear offs. I mean, you're getting blasted unless you get the whole shot. If you get the whole shot, you're fist pumping in front. But if you're not anywhere near the front, you're just in this blanket of chaos. And I don't know, man. There's risk involved with going through the smoke hole, but it's not usually to your benefit. So yeah, no, it definitely is gnarly. It's an element of racing that a lot of people don't understand. They might understand it, but like to stack 20, 25 tear-offs on your helmet, you're like thinking, is that enough? Am I going to be out of tear-offs? And is it too wet for the water to come in the backside of them? And there's so many elements to it that it gets gnarly. And the short course off-road racing is that it's gnarly. I mean, we used to ride when I think that start when what you're talking about, I was probably wearing a dirt bike helmet and I had moto goggles, and we used to run moto tear-offs. And now, since we've gone full face helmets with big tear-offs and laminated and gotten all fancy with it, but yeah, it's definitely gnarly. It's a thing you got to be racing and just get blasted, and you just got to. I mean, it's almost second nature. You don't even have to think of where they are, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's definitely an element of racing that we are unique with some of the off-road short course dirt stuff.
Yeah, you bring that up, and it's a great point. It's just one of many points. That exact race that I referred to there, I went through turn one and totally forgot, because I'd never pulled one in my life. I totally forgot I even had tear-offs. So I reached up and wiped the mud away. Of course, it worked the first time. I was like, oh, that's good. And then I wiped again, and the second time you've got mud all over your glove. It doesn't work near as good. Now I'm completely blind. And then it dawned on me, oh, I've got those tear-off things. So I pulled one of those. I was like, oh, that's brilliant, man. I love that right there. But it's amazing everything that goes on in your brain and how far you drive not being able to see anything. And, of course, you referred to the spotters there helping you out. And you referred to the moisture that gets in between the tear-offs that people aren't aware of. Man, there's just so much going on that happens so quickly, and we're talking about pro light days. I mean, never mind you guys in those monster Pro 4s and coming into turn one at 100 miles an hour, and I mean, hair on fire, ragged edge, inside tires dangling off the ground, just on the edge of absolute disaster. It's not a game for the faint of heart, and I wish there was some way for the fans to understand everything that you guys are doing. I don't even know if you guys know everything you're doing.
Well, no, I mean, now there's I got my iRacing stand on this side, sorry, my iRacing deal. So a lot of people get to go around Crandon and race Crandon, but man, unless that thing starts shooting out mud at you and and blasting you with rocks, there's no way to compare. I mean, we talk about putting your hand up and blocking and stuff. We were at Crandon a couple years ago, and going up the backstretch, I had lost my hood in the truck, and I was behind Cheney. And going up the backstretch, coming out of Argonne, going up the hill, it gets really light, and you tend to roost a ton right there. and I was just going up to pull a tear off, and I got hit by a rock, and man, I thought it broke my knuckle. It hurt so bad. Get to the end of the race, and I go back, and then it really starts. Like the adrenaline kicks off. I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely busted my knuckle, my hand, something. So I pulled my glove off, and when I did that, it sounded like coins dropping on the ground. Ding ding. It was my tungsten carbide ring broken in half. My finger and my knuckle was bleeding, but it hit my hand and shattered my ring on the steering wheel, like on the dash, and totally shattered it. So now I have a carbon fiber one. But yeah, it's gnarly like that. I've been hit in the face when it knocks your shield up. Like it's a knockdown drag out fight out there for sure.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think Rodrigo Ampudia maybe got hit in the forearm with a rock or something, broke his arm. I remember, I know Johnny Greaves there for a while had a combination of things. He had the dirt bike helmet with the visor, so you guys could tip your head down and block some of the roost initially. He also had I think he had a mud eater, and if the mud eater failed, he would pull it off, and he had a set of dirt bike goggles with the pull string that over his shifter that he could quickly put on, and then he also had a rag in case everything failed so that he could wipe his eyes out. I remember looking at all the stuff in there, and that was at Bark River for whatever reason. At Bark River, again, loaded up with that heavy loam, man. You guys can eat a bunch of roost, but it's a real deal, man. I mean, it's people, again,
Yeah.
it's just impossible to relay how difficult it can be.
And there's a lot of dirt track guys that understand and go through the same thing that we do, but they don't race in the rain. I remember starting 2006 or '05, and starting Bark River on the line, pro light, about to go, and it just starts raining, and you're like, oh no, it's raining. They're gonna cancel it. Oh no, it's really raining super bad. Oh, green flag. And the whole race was raining the entire time. I was leading Jeff Kincaid, and he did a slide job on me like no other on the last lap. And but it was pouring rain the entire time. So there's water running. Moto helmets, moto goggles, and a protector so the dirt didn't go between your goggles and your helmet and blast your forehead. But that's what off-road racing is, and it's gotten to a point a couple times lately where they'll cancel a race or they'll postpone a race and all that stuff. And I get it, but at the same time, I'm a little old school, and I remember putting the fin on the top of my dad's truck with a number on it so that you could tell which brown truck was his. And I mean, obviously didn't make for great TV, but that was hardcore off-road racing. And I think we're missing a little bit of that these days, but hey, it's all good. It's gnarly off-road racing, and sometimes the officials put more water on the track than Mother Nature ever could. So
Yeah,
sometimes it gets gnarly either way.
that's a great point there about the officials. I won't elaborate on that one. I'll let it go for now. At any rate, I remember before I got involved with short course off road, watching the trucks. Well, I don't know why Lake Geneva is sticking out in my head, but there were some races I want to say in Missouri, maybe Kansas, somewhere around Kansas City or somewhere in there. It seemed like every time I watched it on TV, it was a rain race, and I remember once I got involved, and let's say maybe you guys are at Cranon and the track is super wet. But I remember talking to some of the veterans, probably someone like your father, although I don't know if your father would give up anything like this, but the guys would tell me, yeah, man, we're going to spring up, for the weight of the mud, because the trucks could pick up 500 pounds or more of mud. So going over the jumps, I mean, naturally has changed everything in terms of spring rate and how the truck is going to land to keep it from bottoming out. So they would literally anticipate carrying all this extra weight.
Yeah, those are the days that I was a pressure wash kid. I was over there in a trash bag cleaning off that 500 pounds. But yeah, again, I remember putting a fin on the top of my dad's truck. I remember them hosing the trucks off at the start line at Crandon one time. Like it was that bad. And like you said, Lake Geneva, it was basically a swimming pool with a racetrack in the middle of it. And, I've been in some of those races. Some of those races were before my day, but nowadays, obviously, it's getting a little more, I wouldn't say professional, but a lot more taken care of. Professional tracks, bigger, gnarlier, maintenance crews and bigger tractors. And, Crandon, that place has amazed me several times. So many tracks will be absolutely underwater and flooded and shut down, but somehow Cliff fires up those dozers and starts moving dirt, and he can clear off a racetrack. I mean, obviously he doesn't like moving his dirt around that much, but he can part ways and make us a racetrack, even though it rained the night before. So um, it's doable, and some of these tracks get destroyed from it, but racing in the mud sucks. We all love a perfectly beautiful prime track, so if we can get that, we'll prefer that any day.
So, as we talk about so many things I want to talk to you about, and we're already running out of time, but speaking of Crandon, real quickly, Crandon did not change for as long as I've known Crandon. And 2021, they made some significant changes to that track, man. There was a pretty gnarly kicker there coming out of the barn turn that has never been there before. You guys were getting some crazy air. Unfortunately, a bit of a tough weekend there for you, but they made some big changes to that racetrack for the first time in many, many years.
Yeah, I talked to Cliff when he was working on it. Fortunately, we're there testing and doing stuff, and he had a couple ideas on what he wanted to do and where to add jumps. And I personally didn't agree with it because that's definitely not a spot you want to throw us in the air. A jump is one thing, but falling off the side of the four-story building at 90 miles an hour is another. So it's just a big, awkward jump that a lot of the trucks weren't used to, and mine being one of them with my bit of a unique rear suspension. So we couldn't really catch it and control it enough to not destroy the truck. So that definitely eliminated us that entire weekend from trying to be a threat. But if it's still there next year, we'll adapt the truck, and we've already made changes to the rear suspension to make it be able to do that stuff. But no, these tracks definitely, I don't want to be the guy to push the buttons the wrong way, but man, these tracks and promoters, we got to step up. These are amazing trucks. I've had these things in the dune, 200, 300 feet, 4 or 5 stories in the air. They can do it. We've just got to, we got to supply the atmosphere for them and the fans to be able to get a little bit more excited about this stuff. And, these trucks can do it. We really got to showcase that. Pro 2, Pro Light, Pro 4, all those guys involved. And there's ways to do it, ways to build tracks for sportsmen and also the big boys, because we really need this to work. Like you said, I do this for a living, so it needs to work. And if I want to raise my son to come out here and race this stuff, I don't want him to be at the same tracks in another 10 years. So trying to make the steps to try to help as much as I can with the series. But I might just start poaching it, rent some dozers, and start moving some dirt on the weekends when nobody's around.
Yeah, if the people want to see what these trucks are capable of, Lake Elsinore was a great example there back in the day. Oh my goodness, some of those jumps are just incredible. And then there's that place there in Wheatland that's pretty impressive as well. So there's some options, and you've been there and done that. So I'm sure you'll be able to bring a lot to the table. Hey, you talked about battling with your brother here. I'm going to touch on this real quickly. 2012, you guys were first and second in the points in Pro 4. And I remember, it's funny because you talked about the battling with your brother, and as we sit here and we look back on it and you think, man, that's pretty awesome. Those guys had to be stoked. But I remember the tension between you and your brother. Speaking of the competitiveness, do you recall that year? I mean, what was that like? The chemistry, I should say, with you guys.
I do. I mean, we had it. We had the rivalries. Even when we weren't racing against each other. I was Pro Light, he was Pro 2. We helped each other. And then I went Pro 4 and he was still Pro 2. And we started butting heads a little bit. I mean, we're all, like I said, we're doing this for a living. So there's a business involved in money and, prize money. And once we all three were in Pro 4, only one of us could win. So the other two were losers at some point. So it got weird. It got a little awkward. And, we all go back to the same shop. We'd all drive there in the same semi. Like, go there, not have a knockdown, drag out fight at a racetrack, and then get in the same rig and drive cross country for 3 days. Like, nightmare scenarios. But yeah, I do remember that. To come down, I mean, obviously it's cool, right? So now that I'm sitting here in hindsight, and I'm sure Ty would say the same, for both of us to be at the top of the points in Pro 4, arguably in its prime, is pretty badass. Like, we I wouldn't say we came from nothing. We came from a dad and a legend in the sport, but we worked our way up with sponsors and earned every bit of those sponsors and built the trucks that got there. And not that the other teams didn't, but it made us feel like we earned it, right? So we came down to a couple points. He had good consistency, and then I was either hit or miss, right? Um, that was an early year. Yeah, so I learned a lot that year. We had some good battles all the way to the end of the line in Vegas, like just landing on each other's hood, trying to just scrape next to each other. And he was always better than me in the mountain bike stuff. He was more athletic, trained a lot more, but I was a more aggressive and gnarlier technical rider. So once we got to the trucks, that kind of flipped a little bit, and he didn't like it. I didn't like the rivalry. Me and him butted heads. I mean, we were getting fights in the shop, like everything you would imagine. There's no picture perfect story here. We were brothers, and yeah, it was life.
That's great stuff. I remember that year and thinking all three of you guys going to be in the same class. I was like, oh boy, this ought to be
Oh boy.
pretty interesting to watch. Not even talking about everybody climbing inside of the same truck and back in the same shop. Great stuff for sure as you talk about looking back at it. Hey, man, let's shift gears here real quickly and we'll get things wrapped up. Talk to me about 2022. Congratulations on, I know things didn't pan out the way you guys wanted them to with the Ganassi racing effort and the Extreme E. Hopefully, you guys are back again to take another swing at it next year. But nonetheless, just to be included in that group, to be their preferred driver, quite an accomplishment. Congratulations on that. But what does 2022 look like for you?
Well, yeah, appreciate that, man. I mean, obviously, I got a phone call from Mike Hull, um, and I'm not a huge IndyCar fan, but I looked him up and I learned who the hell I was talking to, and you start understanding, you start looking at all these stories that we have, right? All this stuff that we've been talking about here. All of that comes to a desk at Chip Ganassi's racing shop with my name on it, right? So just to have that, you can hang up the phone and be like, all right, sweet. Like we're doing the right thing. We're making the right progress. Um, but then to have them call you and hire you is the second thing. And to do it in our off-road world is pretty cool. I mean, I know it is the coolest, right? That is the pinnacle of what you're trying to do here. But yeah, it was a super tough year, man. We had some massive speed, some massive effort. The team is epic. Working with these guys is awesome. And my crew chief, Trad, he is the crew chief on that program as well. So they were smart, but they knew they needed knowledge in the off-road world. So they relied on me. I threw him out there. He was all about it too, and it was just an epic collaboration. So we have a good package. We have the package in the series and in the sport. But yeah, man, we just had some. I don't like luck. I don't want to say we had bad luck. Some of the stuff just sucked. Some of it was self-induced, and some of it was correctable. So we're on that path to be able to correct it, to overlook how this works, overlook how these other drivers drive, how I drive. But yeah, I think a lot of things. If we continue with 2022, and you go back to my roots a little bit, and you know, do what I do, be who I am, and bring that to a racetrack, and that'll gain our results.
What's short course off road look like? Are you good to go here and champ this year?
Yeah, no, we're signed down for 22 and 23 with all of my title sponsors. So I'm not going anywhere. But when those contracts come up in to re-sign for 2024, the sport either needs to be at a massively awesome level or in a direction that's going to make me want to continue. So I need to rethink that. I need to look at that a little bit. If the sport's going the right direction, I'll continue. If not, then we need to start putting some dust trails behind us and start putting some miles in the desert. I think that's going to be my end goal very soon. And also, if this Extreme E thing is as solid as it is and continues to grow, and we show the results, then I'd love to dominate that. I don't want to go anywhere until I'm a champion at Extreme E for sure. So yeah, there's a lot of things kind of in the fire, but I love short course off-road racing. I mean, the thrill of it, the excitement, the way the trucks are built, what we can get away with on a Pro 4, I can't compare it to anything else on the planet. I mean, I compare the Extreme E truck to the Pro 4 all the time, and I go, yeah, it's the same, but No, it's not the same. It's impressive race car. They're cool race cars for sure, but it's hard to compare anything to a Pro 4. So I definitely love doing it. I want to be a part of it for a while, but we'll see what the future brings with the sport and other options to go racing for sure.
Wow, great information, eye-opening information as well. So thanks for that. And man, it's just been such a pleasure to, over my course of time with short course, watching the Johnny Greaves and the Carl Renazetters do what they did in the day, and then watch you and CJ begin to infiltrate those ranks and come up, and now you're the dominant players. Watch the entire regime, shift gears and turn over, if you will, to the younger guns. It's, man, the memories, the racing has absolutely been exceptional. The growth of the sport, the technology of the vehicles, and then, of course, the men behind the wheel that have grown along with it. Can't thank you enough for the memories, dude. Glad to be, a small part of your career for the past better part of 20 years. It's been an incredible run for sure. You and your family, really. I remember whenever you met Amber, and of course watching you raise the kids now and being a huge part of their lives. Your brother Todd, your father Kurt, who's helped me all along the way as well. So it's been an incredible run for sure. Can't thank you enough for all the memories, and look forward to what you're going to do in the future. I know for sure you're as competitive as anybody I've ever met. You're as talented as anybody I've ever met. I saw you behind the wheel of a go-kart one time at maybe it was for Huseman, I'm not sure, but right to the front again that you went, and your talents far exceed what the people have seen so far. I could see you in an Indy car, man. I think you could drive whatever they wanted to put you inside of. So thanks a lot, man. I appreciate everything. We wish you the best of luck moving forward here in the next few years. And, man, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch you develop.
Appreciate that, dude. It's been a long road. Like you said, I've been doing it for a couple decades now. So definitely have some future plans. Want to do stuff, but I still want to go downstairs here and build a new Pro 4. So definitely still the same dude you called Kyle the Kid back in the day. So hands-on building race cars and make a living doing it. So got a wife, 2 kids. This property just got to make it all work and put a stamp on it. Pretty proud of it.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen, our holiday edition here with the former Kid, now one of the standouts in all forms of motorsports that he decides to get involved with. Kyle Leduc, thank you very much, man. Happy New Year to you, my friend, and best of luck in the future.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being with us here on The Skinny. This episode has been brought to you by Toyota, Rhino Classifieds, Dream Giveaway, and General Tire. For the latest in sunglasses, optical frames, accessories, and apparel, be sure to check out fatheads.com. That's Fatheads with a Z. Production facilities provided by Fatheads Eyewear Studios. All rights reserved.